How we doing, folks? This is Mike, and I'm joined by Mike today. We're coming into a podcast kind of dry, not a lot to talk about this week. I mean, I guess, the Luka trade happened. Myles Garrett requested a trade. Am I missing anything, Mike, that we should be talking about this week?
De'Aaron Fox got traded to the Spurs.
There it is. The tall guy that used to play for Duke is going to the Lakers now.
Mark Williams.
Mark Williams. There it is. Biggest news of the week. There you go. What else? What else are we missing?
Just there's not much else on my radar. I'm wearing this Royals hat. Always been a diehard Royals fan.
Right.
They haven't done anything in the media, so I just figured I'd just put it on for fun.
Yeah, Kansas City. I mean, the Super Bowl's this weekend, isn't it, Mike?
You know what? The Super Bowl is this weekend.
Ooh, darn! I guess we have to talk about that. What's the matchup again?
My Kansas City Chiefs against
Die Hard.
I think it's a team from Philly, maybe.
The Union, is it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we made it here. Super Bowl 59 preview. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. We made it to this point. We didn't do a recap of the NFC Championship. We kind of wanted to leave all the juice coming into this preview of a game that I think I said was the worst case scenario and best case scenario for myself, a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. If they win this game, a rematch against Patrick Mahomes, you're right there. It's a new rivalry in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, maybe he's just as good. If you lose, you've now lost 2 out of the past 3 years to the Chiefs, and you're just another team that can't win the Super Bowl. And the question really becomes, would you hate my season more or your season being an actual Dallas Cowboys fan, even though you're apparently diehard KC fan, Mike? Super Bowl's this week, Mike. I'm a fucking mess. I am just all over the fucking place, dude. I am a mess of a human being, unhealthy. My mind goes a million different directions. I can't focus at work. All I can think about is Jalen Carter. I don't even know where to start with this game. I just wanted to put it out there that I'm a mess, and this podcast can go a lot of different ways this week. But I guess we made it.
I will say, the fact that you are a mess is a privilege in a way, because I've never had the opportunity to feel like a mess for 2 weeks between the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, because my team has never won either one of those games. So as much pain as you've been going through the last 10 days, and as much more pain that you're going to have to endure in the next 3 to 4 days, I think in a way that's a privilege, because it means your team has made it to this stage of the NFL season. Only something 2 teams get to make it to. We only root for 2 teams, and one of them made it in the first year of this podcast to the Super Bowl. So that's been huge for this podcast. Maybe we were the difference.
Maybe. Some people are talking about. Some people were saying it was us.
Why not us?
Man, what a year it's been. I can't believe this football season's already over. I mean, we did start this podcast before NFL football started. It feels like we've been doing it for a month or 2. I can't wait. I know. I can't wait to see what we do in the off season, but I can't think about that yet. I can't think about the Sixers. I can't think about the Fly. It's still NFL football in my brain, and there's only 72 hours left until the game. It's a mess of a 2 weeks. It's the first week you kind of just try and remember the NFC Championship game, and then the next week it's like no amount of talk shows or Twitter feed posts is going to prepare you for what the hell is going to happen on Sunday. Let's do it this way, Mike. I want you to start as the KC representative. I hope people can take a wild guess as to why you're rooting for the Chiefs this week. Actually, we're gonna start with me. I'm gonna list through the things that have been on my mind. Rapid fire. We can break down some if you want, and then you're gonna list really the one thing that equals a Kansas City win. There's a lot for the Eagles, right? Saquon Barkley, he's never played the Chiefs. Best O-line they've ever seen, that defense, right? They couldn't stop James Cook. They couldn't even really stop Joe Mixon in the divisional, right? What's to say Saquon Barkley won't do it? A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith was open all Super Bowl. A.J. Brown doesn't have to go against Snead this year. He's going against McDuffie. Either way, one of those guys will be open. Who's not to mention Dallas Goedert, who had some insane catches in the Super Bowl, and I think is leading the playoffs in receiving yards, which I wouldn't have guessed. Let's talk about the defense. That D-line, I told you last night on the phone, I'm like, give Kansas City the ball first. I want them to look Jalen Carter, who I think is a little bit ill this week, in the eyes that first snap they get. Cornerbacks, oh my God, night and day compared to 2 Super Bowls ago. Even last year when we beat Kansas City, right? It's not James Bradbury and an old Darius Slay. It's a Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Darius Slay probably has his last game as an Eagle with some juice. Secondary's juiced. The biggest thing is Vic Fangio, I think, right? We don't have to rely on Jonathan Gannon, who's about to take a Cardinals job. We're relying on an NFL vet that all he wants to do is beat the Chiefs, who have beat him pretty consistently. Quarterback, coach, that's what you give the Chiefs. You give everything else to the Eagles. But, Michael, why does none of that matter?
None of that matters for one reason, and one reason only, and that is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I think it's undoubtedly not a debate that, based on everything that you've said, along with everything that we all know, the Eagles team this year is better than the Eagles team that was last in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Correct? We're on the same page?
Very
and
much
I think
so.
there's a lot of arguments to support the Chiefs being worse than they were the last time that they were in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. So,
I also would agree.
Advantage should be Eagles because that last game was a toss-up. There's a questionable flag, and ultimately Kansas City wins by 3. With the changes in the roster, advantage Eagles. But 3 things from that last team that won the Super Bowl against the Eagles last time and that won the Super Bowl last year on the Chiefs that have remained consistent, that are their keys to victory. And those are 3 human beings. Number 1, Chris Jones. Absolutely a monster. He blows plays individual up. He is unstoppable. He seems to always be there in the biggest moments, in the biggest plays, and he just fucks shit up. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. Already being compared to Tom Brady, and a lot of the stats and rings almost match up to Brady already. If he gets a three-peat, something Brady never did, like suddenly we're already talking about who the GOAT is, and Mahomes is what, barely 30? Is he 30? Insane.
He's 29, I think. Insane.
Patrick Mahomes, how do you beat him? This has easily been his worst roster, and yet he's had the most wins in the regular season, and once again, got to another Super Bowl. How do you stop him? I don't know. Number 3, Andy Reid. And the combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they just win. They figure out what another team's weak spot is, and they expose that for an entire 60 minutes of football. And they keep the game close enough so that somehow at the end of the game, they have the ball and they go down the field, and whether it's a field goal or a touchdown or they just need to run the clock out, they do it. Somehow at the end of every game, the ball is in Mahomes' hands, and whatever he needs to do, he does. So how are they going to stop Saquon Barkley? How are they going to stop the receivers of the Eagles? How are they going to stop Goddard? How are they going to score points on that defense? I don't know. And frankly,
I don't either.
It's not my job to figure out how. Because you have Steve Spagnuolo on the defensive side of things, and you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid on the offensive side of things that are probably the best at what they do and have been the best at what they do for a while. And they're going to figure out how to beat the Eagles. So am I putting all my money on the Chiefs with answers for how they're going to win? No. But I'm putting money on the people who are going to figure out the answers for how to win. And I trust more in them than I do the guys on the Eagles side of the ball. That's why the Chiefs win the football game.
It's such a funny Super Bowl to examine, right? The X's and O's. The people have, not me, the people genuinely have come out and say, like, this Eagles team has a chance to really go down as like the best roster since the Super Bowl started. And I think that's a genuine argument, man. Like, this team is just so loaded. But when you put the X's and O's next to each other, you can have fun with it. It's like building a Lego set in the middle of your day, but it's not going to matter, is it? Right? It's not going to matter because of literally those three things you just said. I throw Steve Spagnuolo in there too. Him and Chris Jones, you can kind of say the same thing, but Chris Jones is a very terrifying individual, just the human being himself, just a scary man, just terrifying. He was standing next to Darius Slay on Super Bowl media. I'm like, dude, that guy could eat anything he wants. I think the fact that Andy Reid is the Eagles' best coach in franchise history is really getting lost because it's like he's just a Chiefs guy now. Like, it's not even considered an Eagle anymore, especially since it's our second Super Bowl against him. That's the thing that Eagles fans, I feel like, aren't really talking about because they want to avoid it. Like, how awful would it be if the guy that could not win a Super Bowl for your organization, your best coach ever for 15 years, beats you twice in the Super Bowl in 3 years? And then Patrick Mahomes, you said it best, man. Like, he hasn't had his best year. He's not in the MVP running like he is every year. But they had more wins than they've had any other year. And they were all really close. And they won every single close game. Here's a question I have for you. Are there really only two end results to this game? It's either KC wins in a close one or Philly in a blowout. Are those the only two options?
I don't see a way where either team gets blown out. I think that they're both built to play in close games.
I would agree.
I'll say no.
And there's a lot of people out here this week that are like, if it's a one-score game, 3-point game, they're going to win at the end of it. That's I think a little bit of a lazy take, right? Because the Eagles are still an incredible football team. Jalen Hurts shows up in big moments. They got a guy by the name of Saquon Barkley. So I really still do think it's a coin flip if you come down to those moments. But if you're looking at track record, then yeah, there's usually one side that coin flips to. Oh, I'm a mess, Michael. I'm a mess.
Give me what your initial feelings were when the Chiefs beat the Bills and you knew that you were going to face them in the Super Bowl. Then what your feelings were about 48 hours later on Monday or Tuesday when you had 12 days to think about it. Then give me your feelings about a few days ago on Sunday with a week to go. Then your feelings now. And then how you're expecting to feel when you wake up Sunday morning. Take me through the journey of 2 weeks of someone whose team is about to play in the Super Bowl, and not just play in the Super Bowl, try and stop the Chiefs from three-peating. Sunday, you're hyped. The Eagles win.
Commanders game was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool game.
You get to watch on the couch knowing one of those teams is going to play you in the Super Bowl.
We went to a bar. We were all rooting for the Bills. I did say on the pod, though, Mike, that like I felt weirdly that this Eagles team kind of matched up better in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs and the Bills. It's hard for me to say I still believe that, but there was something about like Josh Allen getting into the Super Bowl for the first time and like finally beating the Chiefs to do it. That felt like a lot of magic, and not to mention the public support the Bills would have gotten in the Super Bowl to overcome. So that was my initial thinking as far as the matchup. Not to say that I wanted to see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl again. Clock hit 0. They did the tush push. It didn't work. The Bills kind of shot themselves in the foot that game, and sure enough, we're looking at Chiefs-Eagles again. Mike, when that was the matchup, it was hard. What's the first thing you do when you know you're playing a football team? You look at how you match up, and I didn't see one thing. And I was like, oh, the Chiefs are outweighing us here. I mean, the Eagles just matched them across the board. And really, when you look at how they beat us in the Super Bowl 2 years in the shootout, The secondary sucked. The field sucked. We had 70 sacks that year, and not one of our single pass rushers could get to Patrick Mahomes, and we only lost by 3 with a flag at the end of the game. So just seeing the improvements to the defense, the pass rush, I saw a side-by-side comparison of 2022 defense, 2024 defense. We replaced like 7 starters. And it was even worse last year. So, I mean, the upgrades that they have made to this roster to become the number 1 defense in the NFL can't be said enough. And then when you look at the offensive side of the ball, Mike, what did I say at the beginning of the year? I said this is going to be the best offense in history. It wasn't. Saquon might have been the best running back in history, but the passing game never really got there until Jalen Hurts' last best game of the season, which was the NFC Championship. Right? So I add that factor. I'm like, maybe the number 1 offense I thought ever is here. Maybe they have the number 1 defense, the number 1 offense. No way anyone beats us. I carried that attitude all throughout last week. I didn't really dial into the game too much. I was sitting on my couch Tuesday night this week, and I was watching basic Eagles highlights, just, watching talk shows. It's a fun thing to do when your team's in the Super Bowl. Everyone's talking about you, finally. Nobody wanted to talk about the Eagles this year. And it hit me, Mike. It hit me that we're playing Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's a pretty low feeling when you realize that chances are it's going to be a close game. And chances are it's going to come down to 4 or 5 plays. Which, think about that, Mike. Your team plays incredible all year. Both teams have. They've been consistently great, both of these teams. 2 very different styles of football, can beat you in different ways. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon, all the jazz. Which means that when these two meet in one final matchup of the year that we've been waiting 2 weeks for, it's going to come down to 4 or 5 plays. And we don't really know. We can argue as much as we want, KC diehard fan Michael, about this game and where it's going to go. We don't fucking know, man. It's going to come down to 5 plays. Maybe it's a Jake Elliott kick. Maybe it's a Cooper DeJean pick 6. Maybe Jalen unfortunately fumbles again. We don't know, man. I just like my team a lot. The thing I don't like is they're playing Patrick Mahomes, which has finally hit me. We're filming this on Thursday, and I don't have an answer for you, Michael. I'm really.
You took me through the correct journey that I was expecting someone like you to take. I think that naturally you look at the X's and the O's, and in 98% of categories, the Eagles have the advantage. Aside from head coach, I would still say defensive coordinator and quarterback. I think those are where the Chiefs have a clear advantage. You can even argue Jalen Carter is almost at Chris Jones' level. I'd still say right now Chris Jones, but even there, they're comparable. Then you realize you're playing the Chiefs, and it's not just X's and O's. So my question to you is, all season long, you've said the Eagles the other team has to play perfect to beat the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that's also the case with the Chiefs, where you have to play perfect to beat the Chiefs. So normally the Eagles would not change the way that they play against anybody because the other team has to change and play perfect to beat the Eagles. Do the Eagles have to change how they play to beat the Chiefs? And do you think they will change how they normally play to try and beat the Chiefs?
Okay, I have two answers to this question. First off, it's a great question, and I think it's an actually easy answer. Because I agree with you that you really do have to play perfect to beat both these teams. We've seen it all season, or Kenny Pickett needs to play, right? So I think it's different, though, because I think the reason you have to play perfect against the Chiefs to beat the Eagles, or to beat the Chiefs, is because they themselves play perfect every game, especially in the fourth quarter. Andy Reid has it dialed up. Patrick Mahomes not going to make a mistake. Spag's going to send the blitzes, right? They put themselves in scenarios to which it's a coin flip technically, but they won't fuck up, right? So that's why I think you have to play perfect to beat the Chiefs, is because they're already playing perfect. In the case of the Eagles, I think the reason you have to play perfect to beat them is because of how talented they are. It's because of the roster. Because we've seen, Mike, in games like the Ravens, even the Cowboys when they met that first game, and the Cowboys started off risky. Teams have done it all year. You come to a certain point, maybe like 40 minutes into the game, where there's just nothing you can fucking do. Like, it's just a freight train that's eventually going to run you over. To answer your question about how, if the Eagles should play differently, I've thought about this a lot. it's a really tough game plan they have to put together. It's one side of, do you do what you've done all season? Do you give the ball to Saquon? Do you throw it when you need to? Do you allow your defense to make plays? Do you own the time of possession, make good decisions, final 2 minutes of the first and second half? Or do you just come out guns of fucking blazing? Things they haven't seen before. You're throwing it deep to AJ. Devontae and AJ open all game. They're cramming the box, 8 people in it so that Saquon doesn't get more than 3 yards, but it leaves those guys open. Jalen Hurts takes advantage as he did 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. I'm not really convinced of which side I would prefer. I've been going back and forth. I'm like, dude, don't reinvent the wheel. Give the ball to Saquon. See where the game goes. But then there's also another side of me, Mike, that says if you do that, they're going to find a way back into the game. Somehow, some way, the Chiefs will do it, and then you're back to a coin flip with number 15 on the side of the field. So that's why I'm kind of leaning like, dude, blitz them. Stop them. Run them over right when the game starts. Don't give them a chance. You remember this 2024 election? The slogan for the Republican Party was too big to rig. I think it's the same thing for this Eagles game, man. Like they got to jump out to 21 points. They were up 10 points at halftime in the 2022 Super Bowl. Didn't mean a thing. It would have been 17 if Jalen hadn't fumbled that, right? We need those 17 points going to the half. That's how I look at this game. And I would prefer for them to play a little bit differently, to answer your question.
I think that's the right answer. I do think, though, that from my perspective, Sirianni seems like a guy that's like, I'm better than you, and I'm not going to change the way I play to beat you.
For sure. And he's gotten shit this year when he does do the opposite. He like tries something new, and Philly yells at him. They're like, give the ball to Saquon. Stop reinventing the wheel. So he's probably in his head a little bit too when it comes to decisions like that.
I think the right answer is for him to switch things up, because I think if he plays the way he has all season, the Chiefs are too good. They're going to figure out a way to win.
They're going to be ready. 2 weeks
but this
rest.
is how the Chiefs win, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you would argue that this is one of the best offenses ever, and that you've seen that the last few weeks of the season, specifically in the NFC Championship game. And you're better in X's and O's. And you have the better players on both sides of the field. And yet still, at the end of this, you feel like you would rather your team play differently than they have all season. This is how the Chiefs beat teams.
Doesn't it make sense, though?
It's unreal, though.
Doesn't it make
step on the field.
No, but the other half of this is like, if you do what you've done, they're going to be ready for that. Probably more than any other team you've played this year. And sure, maybe you still win because of how great you are. But what have I also said about this Eagles team? They could beat you in any type of way you ask for. Jalen Hurts has the bag of all bags. I was talking to my friend. It's like, what can Jalen Hurts do? Right? He's not elite at throwing the football. He's not even elite at running the football compared to Lamar. He's above average at every single box you can check as a quarterback, which allows so many different ways for this offense to go. So, yeah, man, maybe I do prefer him to come out and just blitz them through the air. They kind of did it against the Steelers this year. Now, that's to say, like, maybe Saquon just breaks one the first play like he did against the Commanders, and we're set to go. Oh, man. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. On the Eagles, who is the player? Who is the determination of this football game? You could say Saquon, you could say Jalen. I just want to hear what your thoughts are. Who is it?
The answer is Jalen Hurts.
I was going to say it's another Jalen, dude.
See, but here's why I say no. Jalen Carter is going to get his back. Saquon Barkley, one way or another, is going to get his back. But like I have said all season, at some point, it will fall on Jalen Hurts to make the plays when it matters. And we had a few of those moments in the Commanders game, and he delivered. But we haven't had a ton of those moments this season. Not to blame him. They just haven't been in a situation where he's had to go and do that. And if they can go a full 60 minutes against the Chiefs without him having to be the guy, like, well done. You guys are one of the best football teams ever, and you've just dominated a team that you should dominate because X's and O's, Y's, you're better. I have a feeling that to beat the Chiefs, you are going to need Jalen Hurts to make somewhere between 2 to 5 plays, whether it's big third downs, big fourth downs, whether it's a tush push or it's him throwing the ball. He is going to have the ball in his hands, and he's not going to be able to hand it off to Saquon Barkley. He's not going to be able to sit on the sidelines and watch Jalen Carter get a sack. He's going to have to do it, and will he do it? I say no, but if he does, the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
You say no, but he did this already, Michael. He did this 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Miles Sanders had 50 yards rushing. They took him out of the game immediately, and that's without Saquon, and Jalen had to throw the ball. And he had his best game of his career. We've seen him do it, man. He just didn't get the ball last. He didn't get the ball last in that game. Think of it this way, right? 2022 Super Bowl, 2024 Super Bowl. We're at halftime, right? Jalen Hurts, first half of his career. They're still down 3. You come out of the halftime. Eagles get the ball first because he didn't get it last in that game. And all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley's on the field. And then the ball goes back to Patrick Mahomes, and he's staring at, oh my God, is that Jalen Carter, the top 2 defensive tackle in football? Oh my God, is that Quinyon Mitchell against Hollywood Brown? He's on my team. Oh, Travis Kelce can barely run, and now Cooper DeJean's on him? Oh my God, Vic Fangio's on the side? You get what I'm saying, man? Like, imagine that. Imagine they're coming out of halftime from that Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes looking at a brand new defense with less weapons. Jalen Hurts is better. He has Saquon Barkley next to him. Best O-line in history. I saw him ready. I saw him ready in that game. I saw him ready in the NFC Championship game. Mike, my question to you was like, what's your answer as far as if Jalen Hurts can do it? You just said no. I have a hard time of believing you when you say that. All he does is proving you wrong. And what's to say he's not going to do it again, Mr. Number One?
It's good. I believe he will have the chance to prove me wrong.
What a storyline, though.
Like, it's insane, though. But
it's insane.
Like, you have to think about all these things while trying to normally win a football game. So, like, if you have the ball and it's a tie game and you have, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes to go, like, now you're not just worried about kicking a field goal or scoring a touchdown. You're worried about doing that and leaving 0 seconds on the clock. So then you get down to the other 30 and you start to run the ball to use clock. Suddenly you got to kick a field goal with a minute left. Patrick Mahomes gets on the field. Is he shitting bricks because he's seeing Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean? Or is he going to drive down the field and they're going to kick a field goal and go to overtime, and then he's somehow going to get the ball in overtime and win the football game? Like, there's just so many extra things you have to do to beat the Chiefs. You have to make sure that you have the ball last. You have to make sure that you score last. You have to make sure that when you do that, you give 0 time on the clock for Patrick Mahomes. We've seen the Chiefs block kicks at the end of a game, like that Broncos game that the Broncos had won. Like, it's just, I don't know how you beat them. If you get the ball with 4 minutes left in the game, like, I don't know what you do if you're the Eagles.
The formula is really simple, man. It's the same formula. It's simple. Nobody's done it except for the Bucs. When Brady was on his run, the one thing people said is the one way you can beat them is you get after Brady. That's what the Giants did in both Super Bowls. Come 2017, that game was a fucking shootout. Brady got the ball with 2 minutes left, down 5 points. What would you expect? You'd expect a drive. You'd expect a magic moment. Except Brandon Graham stripped the ball out of his hands. Fast forward to 2022. The field was slippery. I'll, put that out there. The Eagles did not make one defensive play all day. They couldn't get one. That final drive, they got them to 3rd and 8 and they threw the flag. But, like, in reality, you should have never let it come to that point. I'll fully admit that. I think the formula is get one play. It doesn't have to be in the fourth quarter like it was in Super Bowl 52 with Tom Brady. It could be the second quarter, a similar play to what Jalen did in the Super Bowl when he just magically drops the ball, right? And this defense is good enough to do it, man. You just need to get one play on Patrick Mahomes to put the odds into your favor. If you keep it 50-50 all game and worse yet, give them 2 of your own turnovers, which the Eagles haven't really done, but who knows? You're back to square one. There's so many storylines, Mike. Like, just think about the different directions this game goes. If I started the pod with it, but like just to think about a win versus a loss with the Eagles, monumental. But I'm also glad I'm sitting in this chair, man. I'm glad the Eagles have a chance to like really, really, really rewrite history with a win against the team that beat them. And one last thing, Michael, to your point, a lot of people this week want to talk about the three-peat, right? How the NFL wants the three-peat to happen. Taylor Swift, Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, whatever. Kelsey might retire. Don't you think the NFL also wants a rivalry again? They've beat the Niners twice. They have the chance to beat the Eagles twice now. But what if the Eagles go 1-1 against them with Jalen Hurts at the helm? Nick Sirianni, best O-line ever. Is this not the NFL's next new rivalry? And are they not the favorites to do it again next year?
I hear you. I think the easiest way to answer is to compare everything to Brady and the Patriots. Did Brady and the Patriots have a rival in the NFC?
I guess you could maybe say the Giants, really. But not really. They never really got back.
But they had multiple rivals in the AFC. Mm-hmm. They had the Peyton Manning Colts, which then became the Peyton Manning Broncos. You had the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger. You had big-time teams that they always seemed to face. And nonetheless, they seemed to always beat them. But those were the rivalries. I think the rivalries that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs now are with the Ravens and the Bills and the Bengals. And it's really hard to call a rivalry the Ravens because they own them, and especially with
the Bills.
Because the Bills can't beat them in the playoffs.
0-4.
Beat them in the regular season every time. But, I think that's the rivalry. I think it's like we're the best fucking team. I compare everything to the Patriots and Brady because they're two completely different quarterbacks. They're two completely different head coaches, two completely different teams, fan bases, everything. But Brady moved on. He retired. He was the GOAT. Suddenly, Mahomes has filled that void. You went from Michael Jordan in the NBA, and soon after, you got LeBron James. Like, they're just the greatest, and they're not going to win the Super Bowl every year. So I guess the one of the bigger questions that we'll ask next week is like, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, do they ever lose again? And the answer is yes, but like how?
It would be really tough, man. It would be really tough as a fan to lose 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I mean, this team just deserves it in so many different ways too. I think this is the best offensive line ever. The defense's revival is insane. And Jalen Hurts just, man, he's a dog. Like, I know he's not as talented as the 4 guys in their teams you just mentioned, but he checks every box you can ever ask for at a quarterback, especially coming from a guy that's used to Carson Wentz. Another storyline. He's on the bench in the Super Bowl with the Eagles again. I mean, God, can you imagine if Carson Wentz came into the game and then somehow beat the Eagles when Jalen Hurts replaced him? That would really suck. That would be really bad. Really bad. Really bad. It won't happen. There's so many things that could happen, dude. We're here, man.
It's amazing. We have no idea how this game is
No idea. That's like the scariest thing. That's why I'm a mess, dude. There's nothing I can do in the next 72 hours to prepare me for 4:30 Mountain Time on Sunday. I watched the NFC Championship game in Arizona with my buddies. It was awesome, dude. We got so drunk. We smoked a cigar after the game. My dad had the same one. He was still in Colorado. I was in Arizona. We watched the Bills at a bar. It was great. Shout out my buddies there. This game, 2017, I watched in the comfort of my basement with my family where I could scream, cry, all the above. 2022, I went to the game, as I've noted many times on this podcast, best day of my life, best weekend of my life with Waste Management until that yellow flag game on the field. This year, I'm starting at square one, man. I'm going back to Colorado Springs. I'm watching with my dad and mom in the basement. We're going to order wings. Guinness will be flowing. We'll have cigars ready if what we hope to happen happens. But I'm very happy with my decision. I'm not overcomplicating it this year, man. I'm gonna stay comfortable. Yeah. Where are you?
I'm hosting a little potluck Super Bowl party.
Ew.
Yeah, we got a little group. We actually have a shit ton of people. We didn't realize we were going to have this many people. There's going to be a ton of food, a ton of drinking. We're going to do some Super Bowl squares. bet a ton of money. I'm gonna root my ass off for the Chiefs because I can't what the next 6 months of my life will look like if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. We don't have to go too much into it
Please.
because
Please. Oh, man.
next
Let's
week's
do a.
episode, yeah,
I was
next
going to
week's
suggest.
episode is gonna suck for one of us.
Hard to plan this now, but it would be cool if we did like a instant reaction type thing after the game. One of us will be very sad.
I don't even think I'm gonna have the guts to text you if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
No,
No,
and you'll
be like face down in the snow.
You were a good friend 2 years ago, man. You texted me a nice friend text versus the Cowboys fan friend text. Those texts come, I would request 48 hours if they lose this game.
No, I think we understand each other in that respect, and
Yeah, definitely.
you'll get at least 24 hours.
Definitely. It's a good way for me to tell who my true friends are. I had texts from people who didn't even really talk to, and they were like, fuck you, Birds lose. I'm like, dude, this just makes you look like an asshole, man. Like, I'm already at ground zero. There's nothing else you can do to hurt this more.
I can't get lower at this point.
Nope. You're just kind of putting your cards on the table for me to see. Do you have anything else from the game? I mean, there's plenty more we can go through.
Yeah, on the fun side of things, obviously the Super Bowl is the number one day for prop bets. Us degenerates lose our mind betting on dumb shit.
Damn straight.
The national anthem is being sung by Jean-Baptiste, and he has already said publicly that he wants this to be one of the most memorable national anthem performances ever. I've looked it up, and no national anthem over-underline has been over 1 minute and 40 seconds in recent history, and the over-underline for this national anthem is 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
It's a long national anthem.
I'm taking the under.
Wow. I'm going to take the over.
Is it true that there's like they're doing like the black national anthem as well?
Yeah, I don't think that counts as in the time though.
No, but considering that that's like a newer thing that they do versus last year's, and you're combining it with a national anthem that's supposed to be longer than most. I mean, there's got to be some sort of timer for pregame stuff, right? Don't you think like they're gonna have to keep it a little bit under? It's a big line. It's a lot of points, Mike. I'm taking the under on that.
I'd have to imagine that the NFL and their team has scheduled out how long everything's going to take, and yeah. I don't think they're worried about an extra 30 seconds for the national anthem if that happens. So I don't think it's going to be like the Grammys where they literally kick you off the stage if your speech is taken.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. Last first touchdown, Eagles Chiefs in 2 years ago. It was Jalen Hurts tush push. How they got there though, it was like a Kenny Gainwell 11-yard run where they ruled it a touchdown at first, and then turns out he was an inch away. In that game, I had first touchdown scorer Kenny Gainwell, who was our backup. That would have made my day for my Super Bowl losses. So I threw money on him to score. Whether it's in a blowout and he's the backup at the end of the game, God, I fucking hope that's the case. I think Kenny Gainwell scores. That's my first prop I'll mention.
Nice. I like the under 15.5 for the jersey number of the first touchdown score.
Ooh, so I saw this.
Under 15.5, you've got Jalen Hurts at number 1. You've got Patrick Mahomes at number 15. You have Xavier Worthy.
Yep. You have AJ and Devontae. You have the two Eagles wide receivers. So you get Kenny Gainwell.
Right. So the main guys that are going to kill you are Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Dallas Goedert. Isaiah Pacheco actually falls in the under category.
Yeah, he does. 11. So I thought about this. I was like, I like the over a little bit more because of Saquon and Travis, but it does seem like there's a lot of juice to get the under there. What are the odds? Is it even odds for that?
It's even odds at 15.5. The over is actually minus 120. The under is minus 110. So slight edge to the over. I just like the idea of in a gritty,
Okay.
close game, you get the Jalen Hurts tush push, and we've seen Patrick Mahomes get in the end zone. I like the quarterbacks on this side.
Hmm. Okay. Here's my thing. I saw some bets and it was like 2+ touchdowns, right? Like Saquon's odds are insane. It's like plus 280, pretty much any touchdown scorer type odds. Jalen Hurts too, like 2 tush pushes. He runs the ball really well. Actually, side note, there's a game that people are forgetting about between these two teams. It was last year when the Eagles faced Kansas City in Arrowhead. It was a sloppy, rainy Monday Night Football game, and it was 2 games away from the Eagles' collapse. But it was a great win for the Eagles. And I was watching the game film, being the ball knower I am. What the one thing that people say about the Chiefs defense? What is it? It's Spags. He can get at you in different ways. The blitz packages, you won't be ready for him. In that game, there were a lot of third and mediums, right, where he did that and he saved his best stuff for the fourth quarter. The counter was the QB draw with Jalen Hurts. You have an extra blocker. You know, you can kind of really play against those type of blitzes well. So I do think this is a good running game for Jalen Hurts because of that. He ran well in the Commanders game too, even though people thought he was going to be injured. I like his over 40 yards rushing. I like his over in rushing attempts. And I think he gets in the end zone once. I also think Saquon gets in the end zone once. So instead of going 2+ touchdowns for either of those guys, just take both Jalen Hurts and Saquon to score. I saw another prop on this note, Mike, where it was like 2.5 is the over-under for players on each team to score. So if you think this is only going to be Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, take the under. Same thing that can be said for Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. I think, though, that it's going to be Jalen scores at least one, Saquon scores at least one, and then it's like Goddard, AJ, or Devontae. One of those guys will get theirs as well. So I'd take the over there as well. What are you thinking for touchdowns?
Yeah, that's interesting. I do like the Jalen Hurts. I like the Saquon, but he always gets it. I just hate that if he gets tackled at the one, now he's not getting a touchdown he deserves. So I always lean Jalen Hurts over Saquon. The receivers are a fucking toss up for me on the Eagles, and if anything, I'd probably lean Goddard with a big body. They have ran a few
Totally.
plays to AJ Brown recently, so ultimately, I
Goddard's
like
been
leaning.
awesome.
Yeah,
Goddard has been awesome. He was awesome against his team 2 years ago, too.
I feel like on the Chiefs side of things, I really like the Mahomes option. I think he's going to get forced outside the pocket and do a bunch of crazy shit, whether it's either on the run throwing the ball or he's going to end up running the ball. So I can see
Mm-hmm.
him getting into the end zone. Everyone's making a big deal about how the Chiefs always have one big play, so they're all high on Xavier Worthy. I don't hate it. It's just such a gamble because he's not
It
going to
seems
get the
pretty
volume and
obvious.
touches. I do like the storyline of it being Kelsey's last game, and has a touchdown in like 85% of all playoff games or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Travis Kelsey. And my one sleeper I'll give you is I feel like there's always one weird guy. Sometimes it's like a backup tight end or something. Throw that dude Calcaterra in there for me. How about
Ah,
that?
there you go. I thought about that too, dude. He's had a couple of touchdown receptions this year, and I think it's a tight end game for the Eagles in a lot of ways. It was 2 years ago. Um, I don't know. Jalen doesn't really throw to the middle of the field that much, but Goddard always seems to be open. So yeah, I like the tight ends in this game too. My weird one was Kenny Gainwell. Yours is Grant Calcaterra. I like it. I have a somewhat non-props related question for you. We can keep going down the props. We probably have 1,000 more. Act as an Eagles fan here. Do the Eagles have a better chance of winning in a shootout or a slugfest?
Shootout.
Isn't it weird that you would answer that though? Because I agree, but any other year you're saying you can't beat the Chiefs in a shootout. But this year they're the king of slugfest wins, right?
Yeah, I think that's just like you said. That's what you've seen. Like you play these gritty games and no one does much on offense and it's ugly. And Mahomes wins in the fourth quarter. And so it's interesting. My question to you was going to be, we just talked about touchdowns. How many field goals do you expect in this game? Because the Eagles and Sirianni, very aggressive on fourth down. And you see a lot of the very successful teams, especially when they get to the playoffs. The Bills were aggressive on fourth down. Ultimately, the call didn't go their way. The Redskins, Commanders were aggressive on fourth down. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. The Lions, one of the best teams in the league, very aggressive on fourth down. I think you're going to see two teams that are going to have to be aggressive on fourth down, especially if it's a shootout, because field goals just aren't going to win this game. So I don't know what the line is on over-under for field goals. I like the under. What do you think?
I also like the under, especially if you think it's going to be a shootout, right? If the Eagles go off in the beginning and the Chiefs have to keep up, vice versa, I don't expect vice versa to happen, then, obviously the Chiefs are going to go for it on fourth down versus having their automatic kicker kick field goals, right? If the Chiefs somehow are holding Jalen Hurts to a pole and it's like a 10-7 game at half, right? Give me the over in the second half as far as field goals. The defense have figured something out. It's a turf field, so who knows how that happened. On the Eagles side of things, dude, I think Jake Elliott's our biggest question mark, right? I hate that we have a kicker that I don't necessarily love going into the Super Bowl. This is his third Super Bowl kicking for, and I just it's hard for me to put support behind Jake Elliott right now. So I hope the answer is that there's an under in field goals, and we're relying on who can ever put the ball in who can put the ball in the end zone more. So.
Yeah, your kicking question, leads to, I'm sure, what everyone has seen in the media the last week or so, which is pretty much every random non-correlated stat that has nothing to do with football, aside from one, points towards the Chiefs winning. So the one that points towards the Eagles winning is the whole when one team is traveling east and one team is traveling west to the location of the Super Bowl. The team traveling east, I think, is undefeated. It's only happened like 10 times in the Super Bowl era. So, advantage Eagles.
Bang.
On the other side of things, the team wearing white wins like 85% of the time.
A lot.
The team that's favored wins a lot of the time. Mahomes is either 14 or 15-0 in domes.
14.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things pointing towards the Chiefs winning. With that being said, do you look into any of that? Do you factor any of that into your emotions? If you tried to look at it from a neutral perspective and not a fan, would you let any of that impact your decision?
I think the dome one's pretty scary, man. 14-0 again in a dome in your entire career. That's scary. That's scary. That's even scarier than the 9-0 in your past 9 playoff games won for Patrick Mahomes. So those are definitely the ones that jump out. I don't look at the red or white one as enough. The Eagles won a Super Bowl against the Patriots dynasty that was wearing white. So I guess it's a little counterintuitive there. Yeah, the dome one's scary, man. But I also think this Eagles team is built to win on turf. So Saquon, they've played in the stadium already. Saquon, go back to week 3 of the year, probably one of the Eagles' worst games against the Saints. The Saints were 2-0. We were coming off an ugly loss to the Falcons. Week 3, it was 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. 3-0. The Eagles hadn't scored a point going to the fourth quarter. Nobody would ever think that's comprehensible. That's how a mess they were at the beginning of the season. All of a sudden, 35-yard line, Saquon takes an easy zone read to the house. And a lot of people say that was like the rejuvenation of our season. So I think they have a lot of stadium juju too. Like they were in this stadium when things turned their way. Now they get to close it out in this stadium, right? One thing we haven't talked about, Mike, Kellen Moore. He's probably going to be the Saints head coach next year. When we were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, we lost both our coordinators. We kind of had a feeling that Steichen was gone on offense. We didn't really have a feeling Gannon was gone. It turns out he was gone that whole time, and people wanted to blame it for him. can't say I'm totally excited that my offensive coordinator is probably going to have the Saints job. And I don't know, is the fact that he's in his future building help make it worse? Is he prepared? Are they going to be slow and sluggish and rely on the defense? God, I hope not. That's a big question mark I have. Is just Kellen Moore and his. You've had Kellen Moore problems of the past, man. Like I don't want the reason we lose this game to be Kellen Moore. That is not good.
I don't think it will be. I hope not. I think that's where like the whole like if you start to switch things up and they don't go well, then you look at Kellen Moore and it's like, why the fuck did he just throw out a completely new game plan and we
Right.
season? That's going to be the storyline. If you try and go guns a-blazing and lose the game, it's going to be the Eagles completely ignored what they were good at all season. But on the flip side of things, like at least you're going for it, because if you play the same way that you've been playing all season and you lose, then it's like you were predictable. So yeah, it's tough. Which I guess leads me into what might be my final question. Number one, are you the underdog in this game? And number two, are you okay with either being the underdog or not being the underdog?
Well, the line is because of Patrick Mahomes, right? That's why the Chiefs are favored in this game. It's not X's and O's, as we've said this whole game. So I think the Eagles are like the better football team. I think they've even played better down the stretch throughout the season than the Chiefs. But the reason the line is there is like nobody's going to. Everyone would take Patrick Mahomes as the dog again, right? I also think in 2 years ago, the Eagles were like 2.5, 3-point favorites. And this team is worse than that team, right? So to answer your question, I love that we are the better team. Got better since 2022 and are still the underdogs. Like we still get to be the underdog label, which we were against the Patriots in 2017. It's not to the point where they're going to bring out the dog masks again, but it does seem like more people are betting on the Chiefs for good reason, right? The track record's there, and I'll be okay with that. I do think the line has gone down from like Eagles plus 110 to plus 106. Last one I checked, it was plus 102. It might have gone down today. I think this line gets even closer to a toss-up. It'd be really cool if you could log into FanDuel on the day of the Super Bowl and you just have pickup like that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because when you break it down X's and O's, you'd want to argue that the Eagles are the favorite. It's funny because all season you've been screaming out to everybody and saying, why the hell are you not talking about us? We're the best team in the league. And now you've made it all the way to the Super Bowl where people are forced to talk about you.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it still seems like you're the underdog. Now, from
Definitely.
a betting perspective, you can't really factor all this into it because you have America using emotion. But the line did start out at Eagles plus 2. It's now down to Eagles plus 1. 71% of public money is on the Eagles. Does that mean that they're the favorite? Does that mean that America thinks they're going to win? Or is that America wanting them to win because they don't want to see the Chiefs three-peat? I don't know. They're two very hateable teams, and if you polled America, most of the country would hope that both teams lose. Obviously, not possible. I don't know if the Eagles are the underdog. I think that the smart people looking at X's and O's are saying the Eagles are the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting for me. I've never looked at a football game and chosen the team that I think is going to win based on individuals that I'm trusting with figuring out how to win the game. Usually I like to look at the game and I see how do I think this game is going to go down. And based on how I think the game is going to go down, I can figure out how I see who's going to win. And when I win my bets, my prediction is correct. When I lose my bets, my prediction is wrong, and the script is way off, and the game goes a completely different direction. I'm taking myself out of it. I'm letting Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo figure out how to win a football game, and I'm taking those two over Sirianni and Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. So it's just very interesting for me to just – I'm taking myself out of it. I'm not thinking. I'm not trying to figure out how the game's going to go. I just trust that Andy Reid and his staff and his players will know how to win the game. And I would confidently say right now they know how they're going to win the game. Just nobody else knows it.
Really though. Do you think Andy Reid and Steve are sitting in an office like I am right now and saying like, "Oh, this is how we win"? Because I think it's the opposite. I think they know what we know. They know how good this Eagles team is, and they're relying on their game time decisions to pull out the squeaker of a win. Do you have a response?
No, go ahead.
I actually have a Super Bowl. I think we can relate this game to.
Hit me with it.
Super Bowl 49. That Seattle team was talked about in an extremely high manner. They had the secondary, they had the linebackers, they had the pass rushers, and they were going against the Patriots with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, who didn't match up X's and O's. Everyone knows how that game ended, Mike. The Patriots won the game. They very easily, very, 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 very easily could have lost the game. That's really what stressed me out this week. Thinking that this game could come down to a Malcolm Butler type interception, or maybe not, right? Like, as an Eagles fan, would I be okay being up, being down 4 points on the 3-yard line against the Chiefs? I'd like to say yes, but then we've also seen it go the other way, right? I think I need to start convincing myself and be really okay with the fact that this is going to be decided by a few plays rather than hoping for an Eagles steamroll. Yesterday, I really convinced myself that the Eagles can blow this team out. I don't think it's still an option. I really do think it's still an option, man. I think there's a way the Chiefs come out and it's three-peat talk and it's like, we're going to do what we've always done. And it's like, oh my God, this team just steamrolled us. We were not ready for this. And then you go into the storyline of like, oh, can they get back? They're clearly not the best team in the NFL anymore. And then like Patrick Mahomes is going to be dealing with that, right? But yeah, Tom Brady was the one that brought this up, the Super Bowl 59, right? And I see a lot of similarities in the way the Eagles are talked about, like that Seahawks team, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. How that would suck if it came down to how it went in that game.
Yeah, I think the one similarity that I'm pretty confident is going to happen is that this game will be decided by a drive in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Oh
And
my God.
that makes me really happy from a neutral perspective because I'm neutral and I don't have a dog in the fight, but my wallet will have a dog in the fight. And so that dog will be the Chiefs. I'm just ecstatic because in 9,999 out of 10,000 possibilities, this game comes down to a drive at the end of the game. So for 3.5 hours of a 4-hour football game, I am going to eat and drink and get shit-faced and not really have to worry about the football game on the screen. Because I know that all I really have to watch is the fourth quarter. And if I really want to push off, I can watch the last 4 minutes of the football game. Because this game will be decided between the last 2 drives of the game. The way that whoever gets the ball second to last is going to win the game is by turning that into them getting the ball last. Whether that's scoring really fast that the other team can't take all the time, whether that's taking the entirety of the clock somehow, whoever gets the ball with 5/4 minutes to go in the game is going to lose the game, either because they don't score there or because they score and give the ball back to the other team.
Sure.
Somehow, it's always Mahomes at the end of the game that has the ball, and he always wins the game. And I'm just really excited that I don't really have to get super stressed except for the final 20 minutes of the game.
Dude, that's why I go back to the coin toss. I really hope the Eagles win the coin toss and defer because they got the ball first last Super Bowl. They scored immediately. The Chiefs followed them right after. They ended up giving the ball to them 3-7 points in the first half. They were still up 10. I'll never forget being at that game, man. Rihanna fucking kills it. She was incredible. I'm sure Kendrick will be a lot of the same. Just an incredible performance. The vibes are high. The Eagles fans are all cheering. The Chiefs fans are a little weary, but not too weary because they obviously know who their quarterback is. Start of the second half, Patrick Mahomes comes out and just trots down the field. Like, it was nothing. And we didn't stop them once that second half. So, I don't know, man. I just think the coin toss has a lot to do with this game in a lot of ways. Do you agree? I just do.
Completely agree.
I think really the best. Sorry, one last thing. I think the best way the Eagles can win this game is you get that defense out there first. Patrick Mahomes comes on the field. Andy Reid is known for his first 15 plays. If you stop him in their tracks, those first 15 plays, it can be a blowout. It can go a lot of different ways for the Eagles. So I just hope I see the defense first. Sorry.
No, I think you're right. And I think the coin toss is literally one of those things where it's like, if you can have any kind of advantage against the Chiefs, you have to take it. Does it even fucking matter until the last 5 minutes of the game? I say no.
But the Niners lost that year because of it. They chose the wrong thing in the overtime coin flip. Like, they literally lost because of that. It's just weird. And it all just goes back to the Mahomes magic. Like, if you can figure out a way to, like, take away his window of magic, like you said, not giving the ball back to him at time, maybe it's something as simple as just winning the coin toss in the beginning of the game. You do it. They looked pretty pissed, man, coming out for the Super Bowl media. This team looked really pissed, straight-eyed, weren't happy to be there. Business trip. Nick Sirianni's looking at all his notes from the Super Bowl prior. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this game, man?
No, I'm just excited.
I'm so excited. Listen, I know there's a lot of people that are really pissed that this is the matchup. These are the best two teams this year. This is the matchup that was supposed to happen, and it's going to be a great football game. I would love an Eagles blowout. I think it's still an entertaining football game if that does happen, because it mostly means that Saquon Barkley has gone for like 260 yards. Yeah, let's predict our MVPs. Let's give a final score, maybe a couple props if you want to. I want to take 30 seconds to talk about Jalen Carter.
You want to finish with that, or do you want to start?
No. I just want to bring it up. I don't know, man. Like, I've just spent a lot of time thinking about Jalen Carter this week. Like, I haven't really thought about Saquon Barkley because I know who he is. Even Jalen Hurts, I expect to just have a great game. I think it is a very low percentage Jalen Hurts has a poop fest. I just can't stop thinking about 98 in the middle of our defense. I can't stop thinking about how in that NFC divisional game, he saved our season. He really did. It was 3rd and 2 on the 12, and he just blew up their line to sack Stafford. And then he did it again on the 4th down, and they were going to win that game. And it was going to be the worst loss in Philadelphia history. But we drafted that guy 2 years ago, and he is better than Javon Hargrave was. He's sitting next to his guys. I know N'Kobe's hurt, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis. I think a lot of this game comes down to 98. I really do. I think it's not a stretch to say he is the X factor of this game. Stopping the run immediately, making Mahomes throw the ball, blowing it up enough in the 4th quarter to make one play on Mahomes. Oh, yeah, 98, man. He is a little bit sick, though. Like, people have been talking about how he's ill and missing practice. Like, if there's a chance that guy doesn't go, or if he doesn't play 98% of the snaps like he has this year, I mean, that is advantage Chiefs in a huge way.
Yeah, I think if it's a sickness, he's on the field, and there's not much that can stop anybody at this point from being on the field. I think even that guy at 80 or 90% is still wreaking havoc. He's still going to be an impact player. If you're relying on him to make a play to stop Patrick Mahomes or multiple plays, I think you're in trouble. Because I can't think of anybody that's been able to stop Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-mm.
So you're asking a lot out of a guy that is sick in his first Super Bowl, in the biggest game of his career. That is a massive ask. And ultimately, I'm happy with Patrick Mahomes on my side, figuring out how to avoid Jalen Carter getting the flip side of things.
I love our defense. I love this defense. Defense wins championships, man. Zach Bond, like, Like they're just going to have weird short passes that this team has tackled so well on this year. I think the key for this defense is tackle. Like get him down, first contact, don't let for these huge plays. Patrick Mahomes, that last drive in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, had like this crazy 26-yard scramble that he had no business getting because they just couldn't bring the guy down, whether it was him or Tony that game. So just tackle, put him on the ground, make him beat you deep, which they haven't been able to do all year. I don't think they run the ball. It's just hard for me to visualize this Chiefs offense, especially getting success. I can visualize it with their defense because I've seen it happen to the Eagles. I've seen them have weird first quarters and third quarters and, still end up winning, but like it was weird at times. What's to say Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo won't do that again? But even with Patrick Mahomes, man, I'm like, how do they score 30 points? Mike, did the Chiefs score 30 points in this game?
Yeah.
Wow. Just cuz.
Wow, because it's not my job to know.
All right.
They will, though.
Fine. There are a couple other things that a lot of people have led with in this game that we haven't even brought up yet. The first being, let's start with the refs.
Yeah, I've tried not to mention it, but I guess it needs to be addressed. Yeah.
We got 65 minutes in without mentioning the refs. I don't think we get a refs game. I'm saying that as a hope, but I don't think it's a refs game. I think the NFL has too much to lose if for some way that people can pin this on the refs. So I'm just going to say, yeah, the refs won't mess this game up, right, Mike?
Will the refs cost someone the game? I don't think so. Will there be an argument that the refs were more favorable to one side than the other at the end of this game? I think it's hard to imagine that's not the case. I think that's just the reality of games that we've seen recently, especially big games. And also, people aren't really talking about it and, weren't talking about it in the moment. But now, we're already talking about there being possible rule changes. The refs cost the Bills the game 2 weeks ago. Josh Allen got the first down.
Dude, I was where you're at. I've come a little bit around on that. The fact it was that close and it was a tush push, as a guy who sees a tush push be very successful most of the time, and a guy that watched them do it for 5 times the exact same play against maybe the best defense in the NFL with the Chiefs, is it safe to say they didn't deserve to get that first down?
I don't think it's a matter of did they deserve or not. I think that the answer is the ball crossed the first down line. The refs missed that. Whether
hard to tell.
It was hard to tell, but it's their job to make hard decisions. And they got that one wrong. Whether that was intentional, whether the NFL is telling the refs to make sure that the Chiefs win that game, I'm not going to go that far, and I'm not going to say that it was rigged. And I'm not going to say that they made that wrong call intentionally, but they got the call wrong, plain and simple. So is the NFL rigged? I'm going to say no, and I'd like to continue to keep thinking that it's not rigged. When the refs fuck shit up, I blame it on human error because the players also make mistakes. Mark Andrews dropped the ball. Saquon Barkley dropped the ball against the Falcons. Refs fuck shit up too. A lot of times it seems like how the fuck did they fuck that up? But we say that about the players a lot of times. People fuck shit up because they're humans and there's human error. And I'd like to continue to think that human error is playing a factor in why refs are getting things wrong. And I think that we all have to be okay with that unless we want robots and technology dictating our football games. And that is not the answer that we want to go to. So we're going to stick with humans, and we're going to hope that when they mess up, that those aren't game-deciding plays. Will there be plays that the refs get wrong in this game? 100%, because there's plays they get wrong in every game. It's just that hopefully they're not calling the bullshit holding or the bullshit fucking illegal motion that we've seen a shit ton this year that's completely irrelevant. Hopefully we don't see that in a big third down.
Yeah.
But they will get plays wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is one thing that people forget about last Super Bowl on that point, Mike. Jalen Hurts' fumble that, you could argue if they don't do that, it's an easy win for the Eagles. But what happened on that play? It was a 3rd and 1 where they were doing a tush push, and then Cam Jurgens, our rookie right guard at the time, who's now our center, he false started. It put us to 3rd and 6 where they can't do the tush push anymore, and then all of a sudden Jalen Hurts fumbles and we gave him 7 points. Like, you're at a position where you have an automatic first down, you're trying down the field, they got about to go up 2 scores, and then all of a sudden, right? So that was my next question, actually, is like how to read the tush push in this game. The Chiefs stopped it better than anyone has seen against the Bills this year, not the Eagles. The Eagles did also have a little bit of trouble in that Washington game. One note I'll have about it is that was the best way to put that Washington fuckface Commanders team in the dirt, is 5 tush pushes where they keep jumping off sides, and the ref said, hey, by the way, we're allowed to give them a touchdown. That was a crazy moment. I do wish we had potted for that game, man. That was an awesome moment. But also, like, if I get too excited on a podcast before the Super Bowl, like, I can come back to those clips and be like, look at this fucking idiot. Like, just get me through this game first, right? But that was a cool game. So my question to you, Mike, can the Chiefs stop the Eagles' tush push?
Can they? Yes. Will they? Not so sure.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
I think that the Eagles' tush push has been the most vulnerable it ever has been this year. And that's not to say they're still hitting it like a 98% rate. Like,
Right.
but before this, it was 100%. And this year, we have seen it has been stopped. Washington did it like once or twice. But at the end, I'm not even counting that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the Falcons did it once, maybe. Like, I think 1 or 2 other teams maybe did it this season against the Eagles. But it's still unstoppable, and I don't see it getting stopped. The only time that I can maybe see it getting stopped is if the Eagles have to do it 10 times, because it's hard to do anything 10 times successfully.
Sure.
I think that's where they ran into the problem with the Commanders, is the Commanders had 10 different times to try something different at stopping it, and one time they got lucky.
Yeah, and Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson were both banged up in the NFC Championship game. Obviously, 2 of the 3 guys in the middle doing the tush push. Obviously, both will play this game. Who knows how healthy they are? Who knows if that factors in the decision? I have a bold take.
Go ahead.
It might have been, I think it was the Packers game that I was at this year. And the Eagles notoriously only threw the ball 20 yards downfield once. They obviously switched that, and the narratives have gone to rest since the NFC Championship game, throwing the ball more. But the reason I bring that up is because it was actually a tush push play that happened on. It was a fake tush push, and Jalen just missed AJ on her home run. I think the Eagles have a huge advantage to line up on 3rd and 1 on their own 40-yard line. It's a risk to go for it in the first place. They have to get this tush push. The Chiefs know they have to get that tush push. And like Saquon, it's like a toss to him and he just breaks it and goes 70 yards. Like, that could really be a decider in the game. So I'm almost on the side of, like, if you have the option to risk it and do a play like that where you're going downfield on the tush push versus the actual tush push just to get the first down, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I'd rather them take the risk. Because if you land that, you will take that every day of the week against a team like the Chiefs. So I just hope Kellen and Nick and Jalen, when he sees something at the line of scrimmage, I hope they aren't pussies and are like, you know what, this is how we beat this team. This play has to happen, similar to what the Eagles did with the Philly special in 2017. You got to have one play like that in the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just don't know if it comes from the tush push. I hear you, but it's the most successful play in football history ever. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I get it.
When it's 2nd and 3 after you get another gimme 6 or 7 yard rush, instead of running it again to get to 3rd and 1, I'm more okay with you taking the chance on throwing the ball there. But when you're at 3rd and 1, and you know if for some reason it doesn't work, you just do it again on 4th and 1. I don't think that's your time to break the strategy and the narrative of what you've been doing all season. And I think that's how the Chiefs beat you, when they make you switch shit up that you're good at.
Right.
And I think
They get in your head.
that is going to be the hardest for the Chiefs to stop is the tush push.
Mhm.
And if you start switching that up, you're giving the advantage to the Chiefs because that's one less tush push they have to stop.
And to your point, for a lot of your reasoning, this podcast that I totally agree with. Like, you play the Chiefs, your coaching decisions, like you almost get in your own head. I do think it's a lot less prevalent with this Eagles team than it was with that Bills and Ravens team. I just don't think this team is what scared of this Chiefs team in any way. I think they think they're better. I think they're pissed off what happened 2 years ago. And I think that carries into the game. And that's why, I was like, this really could be a blowout. Like, this team is better. They already saw the close game happen. Like, why are they going to let it again? Like, this team's just going to come out juiced and pissed off. And who knows, Michael? Maybe that's the reason the Chiefs win, is because you came out with too emotion, like you saw with the Lions a lot this year, and like that's what got in your way. But man, this team is just so mature, brought together, so many leaders. I mean, just what AJ and Devontae have been able to say yes to this year. I know you guys had your storylines in like week 12, but like just the fact that we got those guys locked up for like 3-4 years, and like they've had technically like their worst year with the Eagles just because of Saquon, but they're in the Super Bowl. It's really beautiful, man. Like you don't see that a lot. Like example A, the Bengals, who are like having huge problems signing Trey Hendrickson, and Jamar was a big task. They're probably going to lose T. Higgins. Cowboys, right? CeeDee Lamb, Dak. Are they going to be able to pay Micah? It just seems the Niners, right? Like it's just all these franchises and organizations. They seem to always have these problems. And if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, Michael, there's really one name you can pin all of this on, and it's Mr. Howie Roseman. That's the one name you can say for this. The absolute reload this team has done the past 2 years since they were lost in the Super Bowl is really amazing, and we're going to be able to see if it worked in about 72 hours. Literally, like 72 hours, like to right now.
Yeah,
Fuck.
I think now you're in dangerous territory because you're basically trying to be the Chiefs, except that. So the Chiefs keep their coordinators, the Chiefs keep their players, the Chiefs don't have trouble re-signing people. The Chiefs have Mahomes, who takes a pay cut so that they can sign other people. They seem to fill the running back position and fill the receiver position when they lose Tyreek Hill and everything. And so it seems like you're trying to be the Chiefs except better, and I don't know if that works. So I think yeah. Go ahead.
You're onto something just real quick, man. Like Eagles win this game, dude. They could really be the Chiefs in their own way. The offensive line's not going anywhere. The weapons aren't going anywhere. Maybe they lose Kellen Moore, but they still got Jalen in that offensive line, and the defense is so good. What's to say they won't win 3 in a row? And that's what I'm going to come back to and hate myself.
Yeah, there it is. Prediction time. Here we go. I'll give you mine. You give me yours. Okay. I've been nice to you now for an hour and 17 minutes, and the time is over because, as you know, I believe that the Chiefs are winning the football game. And here's how it goes. First of all, Patrick Mahomes, plus 120 to be Super Bowl MVP. If you believe the Chiefs are going to win the football game, why take them at minus 120 when you can just put all that money on Mahomes at plus 120? If they're going to win, if he's going to be the MVP, number one best bet, did it last year, and it worked. If the Chiefs are going to win again this year and you don't care about the spread, instead of taking the minus 120, give me the plus 120 on Mahomes. Now, to the game. Exactly as I've said all season with the Eagles, and exactly as I've said all season with the Chiefs, every single prediction that I have made this season that doesn't have to do with the Dallas Cowboys will, in fact, come true. What have I said about the Eagles this season? I've said that Jalen Hurts is going to have to step up and make big plays at some point. Has he had to do that yet? No. If he doesn't have to do it in this game and the Eagles win, I'm wrong. But he's going to have to do it in this game, and I don't know if he can. Because they're going to be able to shut down all the other pieces, and Jalen Hurts is going to have the ball in his hands, and he's going to have to get it done. Other part of this is it's going to be a close game because the Chiefs play close games and the Eagles play close games. The Chiefs win every single close game, and all season I've said if the Eagles keep playing close games and letting teams hang around and playing these one-score games when they should be up by 28 points, they're going to lose. Sunday is the game they lose. where they may have opportunities to go up big. They may have opportunities. They might be winning the whole game. But when it comes down to the end of it, Patrick Mahomes is going to have the ball in his hands, and he is going to win the football game. Turnover battle? Interesting. Because I think the Eagles' only way to win the game is by winning the turnover battle. Will they win the turnover battle? Maybe. Can they still lose if they win the turnover battle? 100%. Can they win if they lose the turnover battle? No. So if the Eagles lose the turnovers, the Chiefs win the game. If the Eagles have less turnovers, they can win the game, but they can still lose. Advantage Chiefs. All of the things that I've been saying all season about the Eagles are about to come to fruition. Jalen Hurts is not an elite passer. They're not going to win every single close game. It's going to fall on Jalen Hurts. He's not going to be able to win the game. And the Chiefs are going to put up 30-plus points on what is, in your mind, one of the best defenses in the history of football. So there it is, 35-33.
I said team, not defense. Best defense in the NFL. I want to go as far as saying best in NFL history.
Okay.
Sure.
35-31. Patrick Mahomes MVP. And the Chiefs are three-peat.
You just gave the Eagles the win, man. Jalen Hurts, I'm texting him right now. I took a video of you saying that. He's sick of it. He's fucking sick of you losers that for some reason he can't throw the football. For some reason he's not in the upper echelon. For some reason, even after what you saw 2 years ago, if the game is in his hands, he won't be able to do it. Like you said, Mike, it might not even come to that point. It's really cool how this game goes for the Eagles. If they win, option A, Saquon Barkley has a day. The defense is great. They've won as they have all season. I prefer option A. It means I'm drunk and comfortable on my couch. Option B is Jalen Hurts has to do what he did 2 years ago, except actually win the game this time. I think option B would be a little bit more satisfying if it went that way. Like I said, I kind of hope it's the latter. So here's how I see this game going. I think the Eagles start strong. I think they're up at half. I think come third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, though, you're in a position where Pat Mahomes has a chance to win the game. And that's where I think the defense makes a play. It's not a huge chance, right? They're down a touchdown, maybe even 10 points, maybe like 8 points. They need a 2-point conversion after they do it, right? But it will seem like a close game in the second half at some point. I'm very well aware of that, right? Which is when Nolan Smith strip sacks, maybe even Brandon Graham, right? You get an interception from Reed Blankenship, who's plus 50,000 to win MVP. He's my dark horse because he seems to just have interceptions in the biggest moments. That's like a dark horse. My final score prediction of this game is Eagles 35 and Chiefs 24. I think once they get to that moment where they have a chance, but it's not a huge chance, and the Eagles kind of close the door, they're up 2 scores to close this game out. Maybe you even go into the offseason still questioning Jalen Hurts because it looked so easy for that offensive line and the defense made plays. In which case, Michael, I don't fucking care. We're Super Bowl champions. You can say whatever the hell you want about Jalen Hurts at that point. So many different ways this game could go. It's you almost feel bad for the Eagles if they lose because this has just been an historically great team that would lose 2 Super Bowls. And it would now, position it to be will Jalen Hurts ever win the Super Bowl? And if he ever gets back, it'll be will he lose again or will he finally win it? That'll be the story of Jalen Hurts. But if they win, it's a Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes rivalry. And maybe they see each other next year. Maybe they see each other 3 more times in their career, as Patrick Mahomes predicted they would, because he even knows how good Jalen Hurts is. I really hope it's that, man. I really hope we can just look at these 2 teams as the 2 dynasties of the NFL. Niners fans can go suck it. Cowboys fans can go suck it. Chiefs fans can go finally in the fucking dirt for at least a year. Eagles, Super Bowl champions, 3 away from the Dallas Cowboys. But those are things we could talk about all off season if we get there, Mr. Cowboys fan, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to hold off on my concerns for what is going to happen in the future, and I'm just going to choose not to think about any of it, because if the Chiefs win, yes, annoying. Chiefs fans are the worst. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Patrick Mahomes, his wife, his brother, whatever. I can't stand them. But that is a million times better than having to see the Eagles be the one that not only knock off Mahomes, but then get, what is it, their second Super Bowl of my lifetime, and I still haven't even been to one. And then we can, we will at some point in the next few weeks dive into what the future looks like for both of us. And my future is cloudy, to say the least. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to ignore everything until after Sunday. On Monday, I will be hungover and have to work and have no football. And either way, I will be pissed off about the result. Really hoping I'm pissed off because I have to see Patrick Mahomes all over my social media, and not because I have to see Eagles fans texting me, because I will have to shut my phone off if the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
I fucking hope, man. I fucking hope. Here we are, man. The Super Bowl. It's the most talked about event in the world. It is the last, kind of climax of our podcast. It's I forgot one more thing, Michael, if I may.
Proceed.
You talked about advantages, 14-0 in domes, red versus white, whatever it is. There's one you're forgetting about for the Eagles. There's been a specific gambler this year that when he chooses a team for his lock of the week, they win like 85, 90% of the time. That gambler is NFC champion Mike Jaws. My lock of the week is Eagles. Let's go, Birds. Let's go, Birds.
The lock of the weeks of all locks of the week. Aside from me sweating Ohio State +5 against Maryland right now as we speak, we just cut it to within 4. My lock of the week, to no surprise to anybody, is the Chiefs -1.
Eagles could win if they win by half a point.
Yeah, that'd be great. And what better fashion would that be if we fucking put on the final lock of the week?
Oh, my Super Bowl MVP? Jalen Hurts.
Nice and simple. Not overthinking it.
Why not us, Mike?
A lot of reasons.